So I asked Aggies for their boldest takes going into the 2025 season, and y'all absolutely lost your minds. We got over 80 responses between X and YouTube, and some of them made me think, some of them made me nod, and a few made me genuinely concerned for your mental well-being, as I'm concerned for my own mental well-being every time I'm predicting Texas A&M football in a preseason. So today, we're going to go through 10 of the boldest takes grouped into 4 categories. The first category will be reasonable, takes that could very well see come true this season. The second are your true bold takes, your long shots, probably not going to happen, but like a 20 or so % chance that it could happen, maybe less than that. Then we go into the heroic takes. I only have a couple of those, and those are ones that I really don't see happening, but maybe there's like a small % chance. And then we have the nuclear takes, of which we have one, and we'll close with that one because it's absolutely insane, but I kind of relate with it. Spoiler alert, there's a little bit of Christian Walker in all of us this year. You'll see what I mean by the time we get to the last one. But let's get right into it, guys. Please please subscribe if you guys like this kind of content. We previewed Notre Dame last week. We're going to preview LSU, but we're going to be previewing A&M this entire preseason. So if you guys want to be along for the ride, if you guys want to help me out, please subscribe to this channel. This is the kind of content you can expect. Once we get to 3K, and we're getting very close to 3K subs, we're going to go live, and we're going to ring dunk on channel. I say we. I'm going to ring dunk on channel. Then I'm going to take your calls and we'll talk Aggie and college football the whole night. It'll be a great time. There will also be giveaways for the 3K subscriber milestone. So subscribe and stay tuned. Thank you guys for being here. Number 1, the reasonable boldness. The first one comes from Big Time Ballers, Mr. BTTS. What's going on, my man? You're a regular commenter. Appreciate you chiming in here. Terry Bussey scores 10+ all-purpose touchdowns. And I have Terry Bussey in the number 1 breakout spot on my breakout players list for a reason. He has the skill set. Played quarterback, played DB, before switching to receiver in the middle of fall camp last year. That is a versatile player, and we saw Terry Bussey line up at quarterback, line up at running back, line up at receiver, go in motion, go out for routes, be in RPOs, get handoffs from the receiver position. If there is one player to get 10 all-purpose touchdowns in a breakout type of season, it is Terry freaking Bussey. He's now a full year more comfortable. It's the entire Terry Bussey breakout conversation all over again. Look, man, he was thrown to the fire last year, and he still had some really good moments. Battled injury, battled a shortened offseason, was a late enrollee as an incoming freshman, and now he settles in. Even with guys like Casey Concepcion, guys like Le'Veon Moss around, Bussey has a major role in this offense. You're going to see him as an every down player, getting the ball in all types of ways. And I'd be curious to see, and what do you guys think? Will the wild Bussey return this year? You saw him late in the season as they built this playbook out, lining up at quarterback. Could there be a passing touchdown for Terry Bussey in 2025? That's another bold take. Maybe. He's got that kind of skill set, and I don't see 10+ being out of the realm of possibility at all. So I'm putting that one in the reasonably bold category. Number 2, from Enlightened Elite, Marcel Reed totals 3,500 all-purpose yards. Last year, in a season where Reed wasn't even quarterback 1, didn't start every game, didn't even play in every game, he still had around 2,500 all-purpose yards. So you extrapolate that out, maybe he's getting pretty close to 3,500 last year. He ran for 547. He showed real promise. If he can take not even that leap, just that step that this team needs, that I honestly expect. I don't know if I expect a leap from Marcel, but I certainly expect a step. If he can cross 700 rushing, which I think is very much on the table, and get into that mid to high 2000s passing, which I also think is on the table, especially with the weapons around him that can really help him out on stacking numbers, you're looking at 3,500. He's got weapons. He's got a year of experience. He's in year 2 of a system. I don't think this is particularly bold at all. I put this on the lower tier of that reasonable scale. What do you guys think? 3,500 yards from Marcel, and what would that mean for A&M football in 2025? We'll see. Number 3, coming from McMurky, A&M finishes with a top 5 O-line in the country. Of all the things that have given me confidence in A&M this year, it's the offensive line. This group is 7 deep with starting caliber players, the same conversation you guys have heard and thought about time and time again. You've got at least 3 future NFL draft picks in this unit in Basantis, Reed Adams, and Zune, probably more. And this might be the most secure position group on the team. And We're not the only ones saying this. They are on the national radar as a top, at worst, 10 offensive line unit in the country right now. All they have to do is play up to expectations, and they're in the conversation. But if they play even a step above that conversation, above that expectation, they're in the Joe Moore finalist room. They're there. They have that ability going into a year. So I don't find this one particularly bold either. And if it doesn't hit, that's honestly a detriment. It needs to be close to at least a top 10 unit, because that's kind of the stabilizing piece you have in this offense, and that's going to make this run game go. That's going to help these running backs that are kind of getting back in the swing of things, coming back from injury. It's going to help the developing quarterback that is Marcel Reed. It's going to help get these weapons the ball in their hands. You need this to be a great group. But if it's a top 5 group, A&M will have a great offense. Number 4. And now we're getting into the long shot category. This one comes from Vast 2049. Both the offense and the defense finished top 30 in the country. In 2024, A&M was 50th in scoring offense at 30.4. A&M was 35th in scoring defense at 22.2. It felt a lot worse than 35th in scoring defense. When you look at it, it really wasn't that bad on a national scale. But for the SEC, I think that was like bottom 5. But to crack the top 30, this year, if we're using the same numbers from last year, and they will be very similar next year as to what they were last year, they only need 2.5 more points scored per game offensively. And they only need to hold offenses to 1 fewer point per game. That gets you to top 30 on both. And that's just reasonable given a year two boost from having a coaching staff get into that year 2. And you have all these players. As I'm thinking about this, is this really a long shot? Okay, I'm moving this up to reasonable. We're doing this on the fly. This is going up to the reasonable category because you're looking at a 2.5 point jump on offense. And I think with what you have back, stability in the coaching staff, familiarity between the quarterback and the offensive coordinator, the whole offense and the offensive coordinator, I think we're expecting a 2.5 point boost on this offense. I think that's on the table. And the same thing can be said for the defense. Yeah, you lose that defensive line trio, but we like what we have there. We need to see it there, and there's some depth concerns, but I like what we have there. Getting the entire back 7 back has to count for something. In year 2, I think this is very much on the table. And by the way, the teams that finished top 30 in both categories last year, Texas, Bama, Oregon, Penn State, Notre Dame. We're talking either playoff teams or absolute playoff contenders right on that fence. So if you're in the SEC and you get to top 30 in both of these, you're right there knocking on that door. So, and I feel pretty good about that happening. Now, there's another conversation to be had about this schedule and going on the road and winning big games, but I think getting that playoff caliber team, at least based on this metric, very much on the table for A&M. So I'm moving this on the fly. This is going from long shot to reasonable. So we're going to go 4 reasonable here. Now we'll actually get into the long shots. This one comes from Kyle Martin 32. Cassius Howell leads the SEC with 14 sacks. So you're throwing a double scenario here, which makes things much more difficult. And these are both pretty long shot to me. So there's some absolute monsters in the SEC this year. Maybe the 2 best pure pass rushers in the country in Dylan Stewart and Colin Simmons. Last year, the SEC sack leader had 11.5 sacks, not even close to 14. And most of the top 5 was between 9 and that 11.5 number. Having said that, I have no doubt Howell's going to have an amazing year. He's a third down nightmare. He will be the go-to third down edge rusher. He will become an every down player for this Texas A&M defense. Rather than being a third down specialist like he was last year, you're going to see him start and finish games and play on those third down in those pass rush scenarios. 14 is a high bar, and I can't call it impossible. That would be a stellar year where Cassius Howell goes from, fringe first rounder that he is now going into a year to a surefire top 10, if not top 5 pick with that kind of season. It's just a long shot and a loaded lead to be the leader, and then 14 is just a really, really high number. No one even got close to that last year. But let's not call it impossible. Let's call it a long shot. This one comes from Bradley. A&M gets 3 first-rounders in the draft. And you're probably thinking who? And I'll give you the 3 most likely that have a shot in my mind, and I think in most people's mind. We just talked about Cassius Howell. He's already on early first-round boards. Not on everyone, but on some of them. I think our Reed Adams has a chance. I think he was already a surefire draft pick last year, and it was able to get him back, and that just adds to this offensive line hype we have going into the season. While I think it's a long shot for him to be a first-rounder, he is a surefire draft pick if he just picks up where he left off last year. But if A&M does find that offensive leap, if Le'Veon Moss has a season for the ages, if your running back room is well-rounded and everyone in that room and that rotation has success, if Marcel Reed takes that jump, not the huge leap, but just a jump, if everything goes smoothly, and this is a Joe Moore finalist offensive line that we think it can be, Armaj Reed Adams is the poster child of that. And I think that'll move him up draft boards in a big way. And there's a reason he came back. Obviously, NIL money's good. A&M's a good place to be. The college atmosphere, the college experience is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But you don't just forego a draft pick if you don't think you're going to move up. And I think Armaj Reed Adams, that's the goal. The third one would be Will Lee. He was already a draft pick last year. Similar conversation as Reed Adams. But again, you come back for a reason to heighten that draft stock. And, of course, the other stuff we talked about. He's going to be showcased at the highest level. He's the lead corner that will go up against the best that the SEC has to offer. So let's really look at those LSU and Texas games, probably the two of the better passing offenses you'll face this year. Maybe Lagway as well, Lenora Sellers. You're going to go up against the best quarterbacks in the country with those two, Nuss and Arch. I mean, you have a chance to showcase yourself at the absolute highest level. So Will Lee will have that opportunity to move into at least a fringe, if not close to a first-round draft pick. So if you're looking at three, those would be the three. But you need them all to hit. And if those three all hit, you're looking at an amazing season for Texas A&M. And a couple other guys to look out for, and I don't think these are really first-round contenders, but Le'Veon's going to be a draft pick if he just picks up where he left off. I think Dalton Brooks, if he has that breakout season that I and many think he can, will be able to be a draftable player next year. I think Basantis has a chance to be a draftable player. One of the reasons you get excited about A&M in 2025 is you look at all these draft-eligible players, which just equates to a team being veteran and upperclassmen heavy. But I think a lot of these guys could play themselves up into very, very reasonably high draft picks. And that is a marker of a good college football team. So we'll see. But that's a lot to go right. I mean, 3 first-rounders, that's just like Georgia level. That's just insane. And A&M will be going very far in the playoff if that's the case. So I'm calling that one a long shot for sure. And this is my last long shot one before we get heroic. This one comes from Rocket Kitten. Moss and Owens both reach 800-plus all-purpose yards. And this one intrigued me because you went all-purpose, rushing and receiving combined. It's a deep running back room. Touches will be split. And you'll want to preserve players for later in the year. And that's why you build a deep running back room where a lot of players can play. So you're going to see Armani Daniels get his share of reps. You're going to see Ruben Owens get reps. You're, of course, going to see Moss. You're going to see E.J. Smith get reps like he did last year. You might even see a freshman get some reps, especially if injuries stack up. But at least for the Owens side of this thing, I don't think the 800 is out of the realm of possibility. I don't think it's like a guarantee or a likely thing to happen. But he had almost 500 total yards. He had over 500 yards his freshman year, and that was behind a bad offensive line and a very, very rough offense that season in 2023. And that was a freshman year. Now he's coming back from injury, and that has to go smoothly. And you know what? He played late last year, so I think that really bodes well for his timeline. But I think in a room that's really deep, if you're looking for ways to get involved, we've always heard from coaches that Ruben Owens projects as a great pass-catching running back. So you could be looking at unique opportunities for Ruben Owens in places that he might not necessarily get if he's just a pure runner. That utility gives him a lot more opportunity. So I could see it maybe even in 2 running back scenarios. If you have Moss out there, you might throw Ruben Owens out there and throw some sneaky RPOs out there with 2 running backs. You might just get Ruben Owens out in the pass, running routes. That's a big opportunity for Ruben. And with his play style, a one-cut-and-go style back with great speed, if he is able to live up to that talent that we saw in high school and get healthy, look, it's on the table for him. The Le'Veon Moss side, most of that stems from coming back from injury. But I think if Le'Veon Moss is that same running back we saw last year, 800's in the bag for Le'Veon. So really, you're looking at health on the Moss side and Owens getting enough touches to get to 800. But with the receiving aspect in here, I'm going to call it a long shot. I think it's on the table. It's just going to be hard to do because there's a lot of reps to go around in this room. But I like the scenario, Rocket Kitten. I like how you made it all-purpose. Now we're going heroic. These are the takes where you hit the absolute freaking ceiling on whatever you're talking about here. These are really, really, really small chances of happening, but I wouldn't call these impossible. There's just a small sliver of chance for these happening. This one comes from Agsicus Maximus. Moss rushes for 1,860 yards. And A&M leads the SEC in scoring defense. So you just set yourself up for failure here going with the double heroic. You went double heroic here. They're not even double long shot. They're double heroic. But Moss rushing for 1860, it's the whole conversation we just had. You got a deep running back room. And this coaching staff, just like they did last year, is going to use the hell out of all of them. If Le'Veon Moss stayed healthy all year last year, and he had a great damn year when he was healthy, you'd be looking at 1,100, maybe 12, 13 with the bowl game. And that was a really damn good year. Now, the offensive line will be better this year, we think. The running backs could be better this year. But Le'Veon is coming off of injury. You might see them really kind of throttle that pedal and maybe not floor it at all times with Le'Veon, especially early in the year. Maybe throughout the whole year if you're trying to, prepare for a potential playoff run that every team hopes they have. I just don't know if he's going to have the opportunity to get that. Now, if this was years ago and the max of games you could play in a season were like 14, sure, maybe you hit the full gas and he's not coming off of injury and you don't have the deep room. Maybe he has like a Travion Williams type of year where he's the piece the offense is completely built around. And it will be a Le'Veon Moss-oriented offense, but there's a lot of weapons on this offense. There's a lot of touches to go around. So that 1860, even in the best season for Le'Veon Moss, very, very unlikely. And number one defense in the SEC, and let's quantify this in points allowed because we talked about that earlier. Last year, the number one SEC defense allowed 15.3 points per game. And I don't want to say who that was because it's our rival. A&M gave up 22.2, which was like 35th in the country, but that's like 13th in the SEC. You're talking about a 7-point jump in points allowed. That's a big, big leap. That's a touchdown less per game. And I have no doubt this defense will improve at least to a degree. But to go an entire touchdown and extra point difference in a year, that is a tough, tall ask. And you're also asking for Le'Veon Moss to go absolute Godzilla mode. And even if he goes Godzilla mode, I just don't see the touches happening. So I'm not going to say it's impossible. Everything's possible this time of year. But that's a heroic, bold take right there. Agsicus Maximus, great username. Number 9 from Spencer Gambrell. A&M leads the SEC in pass yards allowed. So this goes back to that second part of that last one. It's a big leap. But I like a lot of what you said here and how you worded it. A&M's secondary allows the least pass yards per game in the SEC, thanks to the growth of Des Ricks opposite the blanket Willie. This gives us 2 lockdown corners to go along with Dalton Brooks, who earns himself a rep for being one of the most ferocious, hard-hitting safeties around. The combo really creates a no-fly zone in College Station. I like the wording. I like a lot of what you threw into this take because I think Des Ricks could improve in a great way this year. We've talked about this a lot. I'll go through it again. We haven't hit on it this preseason, but Des Ricks had some trials and tribulations last year. There's no question about it. Freshman age player. I know he's technically a sophomore, but he's an early enrollee. Freshman age player transferring in from Alabama. Year 1 system at A&M. Everyone in that secondary struggled because of it. And with his youth, I think he was called upon to play a role that a guy his kind of arc in his development wouldn't necessarily be playing if you had an older corner in the room. If you have a Julio Humphrey last year, you better bet your bottom that Julio Humphrey's the one getting those reps instead of the young Des Ricks. But now, Des Ricks gone through that. Des Ricks has that experience under his belt. You get that year 2 bump with this coaching staff and that continuity in that secondary group. I could see a big jump for Des Ricks, and I could see a huge jump for Dalton Brooks. I predict that. He's in my top 3 in breakout players in 2025. I have a good feeling that's going to happen. But to jump all the way to number 1 in pass yards allowed in the conference, man, you're talking last year, 232 yards given up per game passing to 175, which was the leader last season. That's a 60-yard improvement in a season. Pretty much unheard of. But I'll give you credit. The ingredients are way better than they were last year. And I think a lot of what you said could come true. I just don't see the outcome being that ambitious. And here's the last one, guys. This one had to have a category of its own. This is nuclear. Ags go undefeated, win everything, Reed throws for 5K, rushes for 1K, has a total touchdown number in the damn 40s, winning the Heisman by a landslide. I'm so unbelievably delusional. Aren't we all? Look, man, it's July. It's talking season. No one knows a damn thing yet. No one has seen a lick of tape just yet. And if you can't dream in July, when can you freaking dream? This Christian Walker energy, it's honestly a little bit of what we all have going on right now. This isn't possible, but it's also not impossible. Not yet. And I think that's a great way to cap out bold takes. But we're not done yet. I got 80 plus from you guys on X and YouTube. So we're going to take this to the call-in show. The call-in show returns tonight if you're watching this on Tuesday. If it's past Tuesday, check out the replay. We're going to go through more bold takes, and I want to hear from you guys. I want you guys to call in. Give me your bold A&M takes in 2025. The live shows are returning for the season now. My busy summer's done. We're done with the pre-records. They're going to keep hitting you, but we're going live every week with the call-in show, previewing this Texas A&M team, and before you know it, we'll be talking about the games because we're just a few weeks out. Guys, give me your bold predictions in the comments for a chance to be read off in the live show Tuesday night, and I'll see you there. Like and subscribe. Thanks for being here. Gig 'em.